Antonio Gutierrez sends a message to the world and to Putin and visits Russia. In turn, UATV English sends a message to Antonio Gutierrez. Another topic is presidential ballots in Ukraine, when and how. All that and more discussed with ex-special advisor to Ukraine's Foreign Minister Cormac Smith. So good afternoon, these topics in more detail in our daily episode with me, Henry Keane, in UATV English, doing our best to bring the hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. Dear Mr. Gutierrez, as far as we in Ukraine have noticed, you were quite busy recently with your peacekeeping efforts in Russia. We acknowledge it takes a great courage and political long-range vision for one to go to Russia and talk about peace to Putin these days. Russian opposition leaders tried before, like Boris Nemtsov, for example, who was shot right next to the Kremlin walls. Navalny was poisoned. Some would be afraid, but not you. You braced yourself and faced all the fears of escalation and tasted the bread from the Soviet dictator Putin's hands. No, Mr. Gutierrez. Putin is Soviet and he is a dictator. And if you tasted his bread and didn't die of Novichok, or your plane didn't blow up later as Prigozhin's did, that obviously means you pose no threat to Putin. Moreover, he obviously needs you. While you were eloquently explaining to a man who instigated this criminal war why peace in Ukraine is important, you probably missed some daily news from Ukraine. Please let us at UATV English fill you in and keep you posted on what happened in Ukraine while you were in Russia. Vladimir Putin, a man that you are shaking hands with on this very photo, is a brutal criminal dictator indicted by ICC. And his criminal, brutal, aggressive forces Friday overnight were pummeling the city of Kiev for 7.5 hours in a row. Air raid sirens wailed all throughout the night. Dozens of Russian drones were downed. Still, one of them slammed into a 25-story apartment block in the western part of Kiev, killing a 15-year-old girl and injuring 5 more people. Another Ukrainian city, Dnipro, another attack damaged over a dozen apartment buildings, private houses and medical facility. Russian missile kills a 14-year-old and 24 people injured, including an 8-year-old boy. A policeman who came to the sites of tragedy pulled his own wife and teenage daughter dead from the rubble. The reason for this appeal to you, Mr. Gutierrez, is not to tarnish your reputation. No. How can you tarnish something that does not exist? And certainly, I'm not saying that you are some kind of a political prostitute. That would be insulting for prostitutes, as prostitutes only represent themselves, and you, sir, represent the United Nations. Well, you should have been representing. And you and the United Nations, under your power and authority, united over what values exactly? What do you represent, Mr. Gutierrez? Shaking the hand of a man that kills children daily in Ukraine, while you and others are scholzing about escalation. Talking about peace is no peace. Long-range political vision is long-range missile delivered at the aggressor's military bases. As simple as that. This war is less Putin's fault than yours, Mr. Gutierrez. Yours and Olaf Scholz and Robert Fico's and Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping and Viktor Orban fault and other friends of peace, just like you. Either populists or dictators themselves. It's your fault, Mr. Gutierrez, as Putin is only a dictator, and that is what he does, dictates his will upon those who lack one on their own. As you are an impersonation of impotence, hypocritically trying to appease a monster, offering it more of our Ukrainian homeland instead of helping us fighting the dictatorship away. And this is exactly why President Zelensky denied your visit to Ukraine, as once General Zaluzhny said, no matter what hardships we are about to face on our way, we won't face shame. Shame is all yours, Mr. Gutierrez. What about the presidential elections in Ukraine? You ask me all the time. Well, here it is in easy terms for you. Democracy is not freedom with no limitations. It is when limitations are legit.
President Zelensky is very clear. He wants all soldiers and refugees abroad to be able to vote, but for now resources must be directed to the war. Andriy Yermak, head of the Office of the President of Ukraine.
Ukraine was scheduled to hold a presidential election in March or April 2024, concluding Zelensky's first five-year term. The vote was postponed as our Ukrainian constitution simply does not permit elections under martial law, which was declared on February 24, 2022, and the onset of Russia's all-out invasion. Zelensky, who has held the office since May 2019, said in December 2023 that he is ready to hold the presidential election, but most Ukrainians thought that time such a vote would be dangerous and meaningless in wartime. His statement was supported by several nationwide surveys, with 70% or more of Ukrainians saying Zelensky should remain in the office until the end of martial law. Of course, Russia and various anti-Ukrainian voices have sought to utilize the postponement of elections to cast a doubt on the country's commitment to democracy and undermine the president's legitimacy. Ukraine is also expected to hold the next parliamentary elections after the war. The last vote for the legislature was held in July 2019. Well, in easy terms, Zelensky's Servant of the People party holds the majority in the parliament, but there is a growing number of vacant seats as a number of lawmakers have resigned and they simply cannot be replaced without the next ballot. But, please, let us win the war first. Former Special Advisor to the Foreign Minister of Ukraine is in our studio, Cormac Smith. Hello, Cormac.
Henry, hello. It's lovely to see you again.
The pleasure is all mine. So, the burning question. Antonio Gutierrez in Russia. Well, yeah, why? What was it after all?
Well, I said earlier on this week, this seriously calls into question the credibility and indeed the integrity of the Secretary General of the United Nations. This is the same Secretary General who refused an invitation to a Ukrainian peace conference that was held in Switzerland earlier this year, yet he seems very, very happy to go and shake hands and give warm embraces to some of the world's worst autocrats and dictators. And look, we know that the axis of evil that is comprised of Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran, and Putin and Xi in particular, have made no secret of how much they detest our rules-based order. And increasingly, Vladimir Putin is, I think, using the BRICS as a platform to oppose our rules-based order. And now it would seem that he has as a firm ally the Secretary General of the United Nations. It's quite frankly disgusting.
You know, the Secretary General still, it's a high position and he has a career. And after all, a reputation, all just thrown to a bin. Nothing cares what Mr. Gutierrez cares about. Pardon me, because I'm really, it's funny to see what's going on. Of course, the BRICS summit is a show-off to show that Putin is not isolated. I understand that. It didn't went too well, if you ask me. But do you think Putin found what he wanted? And what is it that exactly he wanted to find anyway?
Yes, I think unfortunately Putin did get what he wanted. This summit, was attended by 36 countries in all. It was also attended by new BRICS members, among them the United Arab Emirates and Egypt. So, as I said already, Putin is increasingly using the BRICS, which started off as an economic platform, as a platform to oppose our rules-based order. And if anybody needs reminding of the rules-based order that came out of the rubble of the Second World War, and it is based on, human rights, freedom, democracy, and above all else, the rule of law, the idea that one country can simply not march into another country and use force to take what it wants. I certainly thought growing up and being educated in the 1980s that we had seen the end of those times in history with the end of the Second World War. But here we are in 2024. And, we're closer to the brink of a third world war than we have been in your or my lifetime, Henry.
Okay, thank you so very much. I understand that. But the one thing that I really cannot understand that Antonio Gutierrez, after that, what do we do about all that? Do you think that Zelensky did the right thing that after he denied Gutierrez's visit to Ukraine? Was it a proper thing to do?
Yes, I absolutely think it was the proper thing to do because Guterres has clearly chosen his side, and that is a side against the rules based order and everything that we stand for and aspire to. And yes, we have, our leaders have made many mistakes over the years, which people constantly try and point out to me when I say this, but we are democracies. And the thing about our country, as in Ukraine, our governments are based on a democratic vote, and they are there to work in the interests of their people. In these autocracies, and if we look at the big four in particular, Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea, these are autocracies. They are not where the ruling classes plunder from their own people as well as causing havoc for their neighbors, and they do not do anything ultimately for the good of their own people. They exist to serve a small elite within their countries. And I would repeat again, by his actions this week, Guterres has clearly chosen a side, and I'm really not sure what useful purpose the United Nations serves anymore, certainly not in the context of Russia's genocidal and illegal war against Ukraine.
Cormac, again, thank you so very much for your passion and for your time. We talk very soon, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry.
Thank you. Goodbye. It was our dear friend of Ukraine and my personal friend, I'd like to thank that, Cormac Smith, a former special advisor to the Foreign Minister of Ukraine, in our studio. Thank you. Well, that was it for tonight. It was me, Henry Keane, and UATV English. We're doing our best to deliver hard truth in easy terms for you. Hope we succeeded. If so, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, as it is exactly your support that matters. Thank you so very much, and goodbye.